Hey, Larken Rose here. So, a lot of Democrats seem to think that Donald Trump is the ultimate villain and the ultimate all-powerful tyrant, and the epitome of evil. And he's not. Now, he's a horrible human being. He's narcissistic, power-happy, sadistic, psychopath. He's all plenty of bad things. He's not, by any stretch of the imagination, a good human being. However, he's not in charge. Not only is he not in charge and just acting as the obedient little puppet of other people and other interests, shall we say, not only is he not smart enough to be in charge, he's not even smart enough for the ones in charge to let him in on how things work. He is all the way an idiot pawn. And that makes it sort of interesting that there are so many, especially conservatives, who I would think should know better, who are idiot pawns following an idiot pawn doing the bidding of evil but brilliant psychopaths. Trump is not brilliant by any stretch of the imagination. And like I said, he's too stupid for them to let him in on what's actually going on, but he's still a useful idiot for the psychopaths who actually run things. And if you look at, for example, the war on drugs, and now they're ramping it up and just committing war crimes and blatant murder, killing people in boats and saying, they were going to bring drugs here, which, whether that's true or not, it's still murder and a war crime. So a comment I've posted under a number of posts, a number of stories like that, is a question. Is Trump so colossally stupid that he actually thinks that ramping up the authoritarianism in the war on drugs is going to end the drug trade or reduce the drug trade or make people safe and get these drugs off our streets? Is he so colossally moronic he thinks there's any possibility of that happening? Or does he know full well that's not happening? He's just counting on his supporters to be so fucking stupid that they're going to actually believe that you can reduce the drug trade by blowing up random boats that they're claiming are bringing fentanyl to, their story makes no sense. Anyway, in that case, I'm not sure which it is. Trump may be so colossally stupid that they don't even bother to explain to him, yeah, the cartels exist because of the U.S. war on drugs. Not in spite of it, not the war on drugs hasn't managed to stop them. The Mexican drug cartels, the South American cartels and drug gangs, they all exist entirely and precisely because of the DEA and the U.S. war on drugs. Now, if you've never heard that idea before, you might be like, what? No, they're fighting against it. It's okay, most of the world has never thought about much of anything, and they don't get how these games are played. The war on drugs created a black market with a huge profit motive, which then makes it economically viable for evil psychopaths to be just violent loonies selling these products. And so it creates the incentive. And then the CIA is like, wow, we can make a bunch of money being the biggest drug runners in the world, which they are, and they always have been. But the idea that it exists to stop drugs is a perfect example of something that gullible statists fall for because they think there are good intentions. Anybody who actually thinks that blowing up these boats, off the shore of Venezuela is going to reduce drug use or anything of the sort or reduce the power of drug gangs is just utterly clueless. Now, Trump may or may not be that stupid, but they are absolutely pushing this to get more authoritarianism. That was the reason for the war on drugs to begin with. It was never about ending drugs. The people behind the scenes coming up with these ideas know full well that was never, ever going to happen. They can't, as I've pointed out a million times, they can't keep drugs out of their own prisons. You have a cage, a box with people in it who basically have no rights, are under constant surveillance, can have their stuff searched for no reason at any given moment, And they still can't keep illegal drugs out. So the idea that they're going to keep them out of the country is just utterly asinine and ridiculous. And then the question is, how many are dumb enough to think that was even the goal, or that there's any chance of that happening? And how many actually know full well this is just an excuse for authoritarianism? Because a huge amount of intrusive monitoring and violations of Fourth and Fifth Amendment and all that stuff has been done in the name of the war on drugs, and that was why they introduced it. The whole thing of, oh, we have drug-sniffing dogs. We'll randomly stop people and walk a dog around. Oh, a dog did something. That counts as probable cause. Now we're going to rip your car apart. Okay, without the bullshit war on drugs, how would they have an excuse to do that? They wouldn't. So they invented the war on drugs and literally trained dogs. Here, do this movement. Good boy, have a biscuit. Now we rip this person's car apart. There was never any probable cause at all. There was never any intention of ending the drug war. And now we have blatant murder and war crimes and dumbasses cheering for it because they actually think the goal is to stamp out drugs because they're stupid. Now, in that case, like I said, I don't know if Trump is that fucking stupid or not. He might be. His handlers might be, oh, we're going to push the war on drugs. You can look big and presidential and tough and authoritarian and crack down on it. Because I am the greatest idiot who's ever acted as a buffoon for the deep state. So I don't even know in that case whether he understands how colossally stupid and evil it is. He doesn't care either way. It's about his own glory and power. He's not only has he demonstrated that constantly, he doesn't hide it. He openly displays that, and he has done so before he was president the first time around. But it isn't just that. The immigration thing of not just the overall thing of you don't get to be anywhere on this half a continent unless you have the written permission of the politicians over there. Really pro-freedom. Also completely unconstitutional. Nothing in the Constitution authorizes the existence of any federal forcible controls of who can be in the country at all. This is just made up. It's just hallucinated power. But now they're making a big show of it and intentionally going fascist. Now, Trump might be so colossally stupid that he actually thinks we got to get those illegal aliens. You got to do it. They're just such a threat. That's fucking stupid. The crime rate among illegal aliens is literally lower than the rest of the population. And the thing that they're ramping up, I mean, deportations have been going on. This thuggery has been going on for ages, and including under every Democrat, every Republican, everybody going back many, many decades. They're intentionally escalating it, making it more fascist, and having these roving gangs of mask-wearing cowards harassing people and shooting people in the back and being trigger-happy assholes to create strife, to create division. I live in Phoenix, and there is every reason for a hell of a lot of people who live around here who either have some Hispanic descent or they're all the way from Mexico, legal or not, I don't care, for them to now be scared and to now look at people like me and go, I wonder if that's one of those people who hate me because the color of my skin. It is to create division. Now, Trump might be so fucking stupid he doesn't even understand that, but he doesn't have to do his job as a puppet of the divide and conquer brigade who are trying to make a race war and trying to make violence and tension. And so as they're ramping it up, the people who say, oh, look at this example of their thuggery, the idea that that's by example and, oh, this isn't what we want, that's exactly what they wanted. Because they need it to look like a violent conflict, and they need the dumbass Trump supporters to go, this is what I voted for, is a woman trying to get around a bunch of thugs being dragged out of her car by a bunch of armed masked thugs. Yeah, let's get her out of the country. You fucking idiots. But not only are the people who cheer for that fucking idiots, but Trump is a fucking idiot. He doesn't really understand how the game works. He may very well think, yeah, this is something that will make me presidential and awesome. All it is for is divide and conquer. It has nothing to do with crime. And of course they're going to parade out the, oh, here's an illegal alien who did this horrible thing. Okay, get that guy. Not everybody who looks like him, Not everybody who came from the same country as him. That guy, the guy who actually did something bad. Now, people who understand freedom should be able to understand that. But even a bunch of supposed libertarians are like, this is why we have to go after this huge category of people. Oh, gee whiz. Who benefits from targeting a huge category of human beings instead of just targeting actual individuals who do evil crap, regardless of where they're from? I don't care where you're born. If you're going around murdering or assaulting people, force should be used to stop you by any means necessary. But no, that doesn't serve the ruling class to only go after actually violent people. They need a big division. This is to create a division. And it's working to some extent. You have a bunch of supposed conservatives, stupid enough to be cheering for throwing due process out the window, Fourth and Fifth Amendment. Don't need that anymore. Don't need, like, presumption of innocence. We got just idiots following an idiot doing the bidding of evil psychopaths. And it's true about everything they're doing. And now including starting a war with Venezuela. Really, Venezuela? And the fact that anybody can be riled into, yeah, we have to go after them. Are they a significant drug-producing country? Well, no. But they're an easy one to start a war with, so Trump, the puppet idiot, can look presidential while creating another war that people are going to die in. And so it's frustrating to watch supposed conservatives be this fucking stupid. And it would be one thing if Trump was actually like genius, mastermind, tyrant who did these clever spins and stuff. But he's an idiot doing the idiot version of propaganda and division. And his idiot supporters are still falling for it. It's like, if there's some con man who has some super slick thing and he can pretend to, I'm all caring and concerned and I just need a little bit of money or something to do this good thing, and a bunch of people get ripped off because they thought he was going to do something good. Turns out he's a lying scumbag. Like, at that point, I have sympathy for the victims of an actual, like, clever con man. It's hard to have any sympathy for Trump supporters because there's no genius here. There's no principle. There's nothing even remotely close to conservatism. It's just authoritarian thuggery. And the fact that the puppet isn't even smart enough to understand it is just, it makes it especially sad. Like, it's idiots squared, idiots following idiots, following actual psychopaths who have some intelligence enough to play these games. But the fact that conservatives are falling for it when it's like, they will see through these tricks and identify them and describe them exactly when a Democrat does them. Why are you starting this war over here with this country? We have nothing to do with it. Why are you doing this undeclared violence over there? Hey, we don't like that. Trump is bravely starting an undeclared war over here. We like that because he's our guy because we're fucking morons. And so it's been a tad disappointing to see how many conservatives are really so colossally stupid that they don't even remember. He didn't even have to like put a spin on the principle. Well, we still believe in that. They always do that. Well, I believe in private gun ownership, but we can't have people who smoke pot being allowed to have guns, which is what Trump's administration is trying to push. But the number of things they're falling for, which is like literally the identical tricks that Democrat puppets have tried before, and then they saw through it and said, hey, we don't want this warmongering, we don't want this authoritarianism, we don't want federalization of everything. And now suddenly they do. But to have the solutions be this stupid and recycled stupidity, like the war on drugs by any measure, by anyone sane and paying any attention, it doesn't matter what you think of drugs. If you actually know the history of the war on drugs and what it has accomplished and what it hasn't accomplished, if you have a brain or a soul, either one, maybe even both, but either one, if you have a brain or a soul, you would be 100% against the war on drugs, regardless of what you think of illegal drugs and addicts and any of that. It's just insanely, stupidly evil and violent and destructive and makes everything worse. And I've spelled out a million times the fact that we already had a perfect example. It was alcohol prohibition. When alcohol was prohibited at the federal level, did alcohol abuse go away? Nope. Did nobody have any alcohol? Nope. Immediately, corrupt politicians and organized crime, usually working together, took over the industry. It got way more lucrative. It got way more violent. There were shootouts everywhere. Everything got way worse. Now, you can think that alcohol is really bad and still have enough of a brain to recognize, yeah, but that made it worse. Like, in real life, it made it worse. And anybody paying any attention to the war on drugs, and this, it's not like they started it last week. The destruction and insanity has been going on for decades and decades. Anybody who still thinks the war on drugs is a good idea is just a fucking idiot. And that's even if you think, you know, these drugs are a scourge on our society and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, a lot of that you could make a case for it. You can't make a case that government violence makes it better. And if the extent of your ability to think is, I don't like that, use government against it, you're a moron. And you don't get that you're just a useful idiot for the worst people in the world who will look at your concern, which may be genuine, it may be justified. You're concerned about drug use or poverty or scary this or scary that or disease or whatever the hell you happen to be scared of. And they will go, well, this is a chance for us to grab power, and that idiot is going to cheer for it. Because they're genuinely concerned about whatever the problem is, whether it's real, imaginary, exaggerated, whatever, and they're dumb enough that if we go to them and say, we need more authoritarian power to fix that problem that you're concerned about, they'll go, yay. But the fact that they could recycle the war on drugs after just the catastrophic disaster that it has been, just destroying countless lives, getting huge numbers of people killed. Meanwhile, the CIA is running drugs. Like, after that became public knowledge, anyone going rah, rah, rah for the war on drugs, that's like Olympic level stupidity. And in Philadelphia, it's happened in a number of places. In Philadelphia, literally the drug task force, a bunch of them got arrested for dealing drugs. You guessed it. Because they're like, there's lots of money in doing this, so we're going to go stamp it out by doing it. And then we can stamp out our competition so we can make more money. It's happened in a number of police departments. It's happened nationally with the DEA and the CIA. And this isn't a secret anymore. Like, for a while, it was only crazy conspiracy. Now it's just, if you don't know that the CIA is a bunch of drug runners and gun runners and murderers and all a bunch, like, it's just because you're not paying attention. But if you actually care about something, including like drug abuse and whatever else, if your goal is to make that problem less bad, okay, I wholeheartedly agree with your goal. If you think more government power is going to solve that, you just have no idea how reality works, and you don't understand the fact that the people in power don't want to solve it. They want it to keep being this bad, so they keep having an excuse to have more power. They are trying to cause a war with Venezuela so they can have more power. They are trying to get people to hate immigrants so they can do divide and conquer, so they can have more power. They are everything they do. The warmongering, the war on drugs, the immigration thing, it's all designed to pit us against each other so they can grab more power. I mean, the fact that that needs to be said anymore is kind of pathetic because it's so freaking obvious. And the fact that they can recycle the old, used idiot propaganda and have it work on conservatives. Now, I admit I have a little bit of a bias because I was a conservative 80 billion years ago when I still believed in government. And back then, I very much got the impression that conservatives think about stuff to reach their conclusions. Now, they had statist premises and authoritarianism built into their bogus worldview, which made it automatically a disaster in the end. But they had rationale. They had talking heads who would actually like explain things and talk about Austrian economics and talk about how this causes this and how welfare makes things worse. And they were way more intellectual than the feels-driven left back then when I was one. And now I look at this and I think, how did conservatives get to the point where they're just as emotional, just as irrational, just as gullible, just as stupid, just as much bootlicking dumbasses as the left ever was, including during the COVID circus? No, it's good when we have gangs of masked people harassing people in the streets in broad daylight and throwing people into vans because they didn't have politicians' permission to be. Good grief. That's now what the Republican Party is and what conservatives are. It's pathetic. So just thought I'd make a quick video pointing out that no, Trump, as evil as he is, he's not a mastermind. He's not some evil genius. He's not coming up with any of this. He's a fucking moron. But if the ones running the show say, hey, you can put on a show of being tough against this and being tough against that, and all he thinks of is his own glory and people praising him and his own money and power and all that, so he acts as their stupid thug. But it's a little bit discouraging that so many conservatives are cheering for an idiot thug. Not a mastermind, not a clever propagandist, not a super genius evil villain who can come across looking benevolent, but just an idiot thug who doesn't hide the fact that he's an idiot or a thug or a power-happy wannabe dictator. And so it's just weird that the bar is that low for conservatives now that they can be tricked by something that stupid. And not even just one thing, the immigration thing, the war on drugs thing, the creating new wars all over the place. The fact that they fall for it when it has been that dumbed down, I mean, don't have a crystal ball. But the 1994 Republican Revolution, I don't think most of the people who voted for that would have fallen for this bullshit. Like if the next day, suddenly this is what they were pushing, I think a lot of those voters would be like, whoa, dude, that's the opposite of what we wanted. Stop doing that. And so the fact that the conservatives and their talking heads have been dumbed down to this level, and I see a bunch of well-known conservatives posting things going rah, rah, rah for literally just absolutely unconstitutional, arbitrary, centralized federal power over everything. And, like, I don't give a shit about the Constitution, as you know, but they pretend to, but no, they don't. They pretend to be Christians, but no, they aren't. They pretend to be conservatives, but no, they aren't. They're fear-driven idiots falling for a bumbling idiot who's not that good at it. And so it amazes me. It would be one thing to try to tell people, yeah, I know that sounds genuine and sounds super slick and convincing, but here's the trick. And like Obama was the last bullshitter who I think was pretty good at it. Like he deserves kudos for, yeah, he's an evil slimeball warmonger, power half a piece of crap, and puppet of the machine, but he was pretty good at duping people into thinking he meant well, at least some people. But to have people falling for this when it's just so transparently stupid and divisive and just emotion-driven, insecure, snowflake, whiny bitch Trump doing all, like kissing the ass of Israel and making excuses for the war crimes being done by the ruling class of Israel. It's weird to watch a category of people, conservatives, who I thought was less stupid than that. Now, some of them are, because some of them are now going, whoa, what are we doing? Why? No, this is not okay. Okay, at least some of them can still say that. But the level of crap that people are falling for now, in 2020, in the middle of the COVID circus, I never in a million years would have thought that a few years later, my opinion of a hell of a lot of conservatives would be as low as it was of the Democrats who fell for that crap. Everybody should be forced to stay in their houses and hide in terror, based on literally the opposite of science. It's like, wow, the level of gullibility and stupidity. And now we need to randomly attack millions of people who haven't done anything wrong, except they don't have the permission of the ruling class. And if we attack a bunch of other people who are citizens and born here, oh well, that's the price we pay for you dumbasses cheering for authoritarianism. So it's just amazing. So congratulations, Republican Party. You have somehow managed to fall for divisive bullshit that's so patently idiotic that my respect for Republicans in general has somehow managed to drop down to my level of my respect for Democrats in general when it comes to gullibility and being emotion-driven dupes and falling for every single stupid authoritarian game that the psychopaths in power can come up with. Wow. So, congratulations on being idiots, worshiping an idiot, being a stupid puppet of the worst people in the world. Yay!